If I could ask everybody to take their seats in the audience as well as the board, we would like to begin. We have our couple perfunctory announcements. We audio and video record our meetings. So I ask that for the board members, if you have something to say on the record, please hit your little button so the light goes on. And when you're finished, hit the button again. We have a limit of 5 active mics at any given time. For those board members who call in, I ask that you, because I think we have 2 on the phone, mute your phones when you are not saying something, because that way we don't get all the feedback. Same thing with board members here. If you could turn your phones on silent or off, it would be greatly appreciated. So with that, I will turn it over to Director Durrani, our Audit Committee Chair.
Good morning. I'll ask the Secretary to call roll.
Director Anderson?
Here.
Oh, okay, by phone with necessary paperwork completed. Director Colson? Here. Director Higgins? Here. Director Lewis?
Here.
Director DeWitt? Director Melvin? Director Ross?
Ask her to speak first.
Director Durrani?
Here.
We have a quorum of 7 present. Okay, 6 physically present, 1 on the telephone. I'm all confused. 5 physically present, 2 on the phone, 1 on the phone and 2 absent, for a total of 8. Basic math was never my strong suit. The record would also show that Directors Fraga, Fuentes, Hobson, McGallis, Triani are also present.
Item 2 on the agenda is the approval of minutes from the meeting held on February 16, 2017. Is there a motion to accept by Director Ross, seconded by Director Lewis? I guess roll call on the approval.
Director Anderson?
Yes.
Director Colson? Yes. Director Higgins?
Yes.
Director Lewis?
Yes.
Director Ross? Yes. Director Durrani?
Yes.
6 ayes and 2 absent.
Okay. Before we get started with the Audit Committee agenda, I'm going to ask Leanne to say a few words.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I just wanted to take a few moments this morning before we actually sort of roll into all of our committees to just make a few remarks and sort of just put some things in context, I guess, is probably the best way to describe it. So, as you know, the state legislature recently ended its spring session without coming to a budget resolution. This presents a set of challenges for our regional transit system. I'd like to just take a few moments to walk through some of them and present kind of the lay of the land, if you will. First, in today's Audit Committee and the presentation that you'll hear from Bea and Joe, you'll hear the good news that there were no material weaknesses found in the comprehensive audit for our 2016 finances. The report also includes a mention of a Moody's downgrade of the RTA's rating last week from AA3 to A2. The Moody's credit opinion says the downgrade factors in the repercussions of an extended political impasse in the Illinois General Assembly over how to balance the state's budget. It goes on further to note that after the downgrade, the RTA sales tax bond rating remains higher than general obligation debt of either the Chicago or the state. We'll also, in the committee after that, in the Finance Committee, you'll hear a report, a presentation on the Project Management Oversight Program that we have here, which is an item on our Finance Committee agenda. And this report covers state-funded transit projects with budgets over $10 million. Another potential result of the state not passing a new budget by July 1st is the state's inability to access funds for state-funded capital projects. Last week, IDOT issued notification to the service boards and others as well notified us that we can continue with state-funded projects at their discretion. So basically telling us and the service boards that if we have the ability, with our own discretion, using non-state funds to proceed with projects. That will, they would also then be eligible for reimbursement when, if and when the budget is resolved, assuming that funds are actually appropriated for those projects. The service boards are currently evaluating their projects and deciding which projects will proceed with these funding risks starting July 1st. Finally, B's report on the Transit's region financials is also slated for the Finance Committee. Some of the news is better and some of it is not. She'll tell you that through April, the regional fare box recovery ratio remains unfavourable to budget, but it has improved over the March results. This is the time of year when we usually begin forecasting for the 2018 and beginning the planning steps for the 2018 budget. So we're taking advantage of this opportunity to also reforecast our 2017 budget numbers based on current information about important revenue and cash flow factors like sales tax collection, PTF payments, and ridership numbers. These developments resulting from the lack of a state budget are further compounded by the fact that the state continues to fall further behind on PTF and debt service payments, creating additional pressures on the already tenuous cash flow situation. While the state did transfer $27 million in public transportation fund payments last week, we continue to operate month to month when it comes to delivering monthly public transportation fund payments to the service boards, as our short-term borrowing authority capacity has reached its statutory limit. Again, we'll dig into more details on these topics this morning, but none of these items can be really should be looked at independently. The ongoing state budget impasse is creating several financial pressure points of varying degrees, which, when viewed in isolation, could look like separate issues, but really are all interrelated. So that said, I'll return to some of these topics in my ED report in the board meeting later this morning, and with that, I will turn it over to B and Joe to run through the audit information. Thank you.
So I'd like to introduce our partners, Joe Evans and Bill Sarb, who have been working with us on our annual audit. And Joe will actually be doing the presentation, and then subsequent to that, you will be introducing and presenting the Prado Associates. Okay? So go ahead, Joe. Thank you. This is the bit of good news you're getting today.
Okay, thank you. I'm Joe Evans, partner with RSM US. I'm the lead client service partner. Bill Sarb, a senior manager, runs the audit, and he's actually here with us today. And also next to me is Maria Prado. She's with Prado and Renteria. This is the DBE firm that works with us in connection with the audit. There's a DBE goal of 15%, which was raised from 10% in the previous year, and we have met that goal. Maria will talk a little bit later about the single audit, because that's the area they worked on the most, but they also assist us with the CAFR and a number of audit procedures in the regular audit. The scope of our work includes the CAFR, which is the main financial statement of the RTA, the combining financial statements, which is the statutory basis report that includes the RTA and all the service boards, the RTA Joint Self-Insurance Fund, the pension plan for the non-union employees of RTA, Metro, and PACE, and of course the single audit, which is the federal programs audit. The good news is you received unqualified opinions in all of the reports. This is a clean opinion, means that all of the appropriate standards have been met. It's the best opinion you can have. That covers the RTA CAFR, that covers the Joint Self-Insurance Fund, and the pension plan. Then, as required by auditing standards, there's certain items that I'm required to point out to you, and one of them has to do with significant judgments or accounting estimates in the financial statements. In the past, I've talked about the swap valuations, which are very, very difficult to value and subject to a great amount of estimation. Those were all canceled. They were all retired during 2016, so we're completely out of all of the swaps. But there are other investments, particularly in the pension plan, which are also subject to a great deal of estimation. Other required communications include there were no disagreements, there were no consultations with other accountants, no major issues discussed prior to our retention, no alternative accounting treatments, and no audit adjustments. So very good news. Other information that's included in the CAFR includes management's discussion and analysis and required supplementary information, so the report itself is a very comprehensive document. We also receive a written representation letter from key members of management indicating that they've answered our questions truthfully and provided us all the information we needed. We received excellent cooperation from the entire staff, and we had open access to the entire organization, so no scope limitations with respect to our work. Just a couple of highlights with respect to the comprehensive annual financial report. This is the 22nd straight year that we've received the GFOA Certificate of Achievement, which is a very prestigious award from the Government Finance Officers Association. With respect to the budgetary highlights, the RTA General Fund was less than budgeted amounts by $57 million due to delays in the timing of receipt of funding from the state for ASA and AFA, again, due to the state's ongoing budget impasse. Total expenditures in the RTA General Fund were less than budgeted amounts by $3.3 million. And as Leanne previously mentioned, there was a Moody's downgrade of the RTA to A2 from AA3. And that event occurred subsequent to the date of our financial statements, but before our issuance. So that's something that we need to note in the financial statements. With respect to the combining statements, again, this is the report required to be submitted to the state. This includes all the service boards' information. And each service board receives their own independent audit. So those audits have been completed as well. And those were provided to us. And each service board then certified their recovery ratio to the RTA. The region-wide recovery ratio that we calculate is required to be 50%. The actual is 51.16%. And the region-wide ADA paratransit recovery ratio, which is required to be 10%, was met as well. The RTA Joint Self-Insurance Fund has net position or net equity, as it's referred to, as of $26.5 million. And during the year, the RTA distributed $4.4 million from the general fund to pay insurance premiums. The RTA pension plan, this is for the non-union employees of RTA, PACE, and Metra, had combined employer contributions of $10.8 million during 2016. And the investments had a market value gain of $20 million compared to a loss of $9.1 million in the previous year. One of the unique things about this year's report that I wanted to point out is there's a new statement required by the Governmental Accounting Standards Board, statement number 72, which was required to be implemented this year. And this statement requires additional disclosures about how the fair value of investments was determined. So you'll see an extra footnote in the current year report, similar to what commercial entities do, talking about the hierarchy of how our investments are valued. And basically it requires three categories: whether we're in active markets, whether we're in inactive markets, or whether we have to use similar assets to value our investments. And all of our, of the three categories, all of our investments are in level 1 and level 2, which means they're easier to value. We don't have any really complex, hard to value investments. I'd like to turn it over to Maria to talk a little bit about the single audit now.
Good morning. With respect to the single audit, the RTA had total federal expenditures of $4.7 million for fiscal year 2016. We tested one major program, and that was the Transit Services Program cluster, which encompassed $2.7 million in expenditures. and we had no compliance issues, and we issued an unmodified opinion, which means that it was a clean opinion. And just to give you a little bit of background about the way that we select programs for testing, we normally rotate the programs from year to year, and we ensure that we have a 50% coverage on the testing of expenditures.
Okay, thank you. To sum things up, no material weaknesses or significant deficiencies noted during the current year audit. There were no audit adjustments. All of the reports received unmodified or clean opinions, and we were completed on time and on budget. So with that, I'll turn it over to Director if there's any questions.
Thank you, Joe. Are there any questions or comments? Hearing none, I'll ask for a motion for approval of the ordinance.
Chairman Durante, would you
Aye.
like to take both of these items together? Are they presented together?
Well, it says ordinance approving, it's item 3A and 3B. Item 3A and 3B, that's what it combined, right, Joe?
Yes.
Okay. So there are two. The ordinance approving the combining financial report and certifying compliance with the RTA Act recovery ratio requirement for 2016. And item 3B is the ordinance approving and releasing the RTA 2016 comprehensive annual financial report. So have a motion? Yes. Yes, Mr. Director Coase.
Turn on your mic, please.
I noticed you report the recovery ratio at 51.16%, and as part of that, I guess PACE and PACE ADA report a 10% recovery ratio. And I was told at an earlier meeting that the way they calculate that is they get to 10%, and even though the actual figure may be higher, they always report 10%. Is that true? And B, wouldn't that help us if they actually crunch the real numbers? It might be higher than 51.16.
So a couple of things. Yes, they only use the credits that they need to get to exactly the 10%. But the reason it wouldn't help, I still think that they should consider using their additional credits. But the reason it wouldn't help is that is not factored into the regional recovery ratio. The PACE ADA one is tracked separately. So it wouldn't help the regional one, but they do only use the credits needed to get to the 10%. PACE is actually using a little bit more credits, and we're encouraging them. They're willing to explore using some of their additional credits. Now, that would help the regional recovery ratio, but it moves the needle very little because they're just a very small part of it. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, Director Hobson.
Yeah, I had a question regarding the downgrade by Moody's. Do we have a feel for the rationale, the reasoning behind Moody's downgrade?
So we could cover it here. We could cover it in the next committee. But
wherever you're more comfortable.
Well, no, I mean, that's fine. What we spent, quality time with Moody's, I'm going to call it that. And even their own report, and, we can certainly, it was a press release, they specifically speak to how it is solely due to the budget impasse and the state delays. As a matter of fact, they include a table which shows our debt coverage, what it was in 2009 and 10, and I think one was 3.5 and now, or 3.6, and now we're 3.5. We have a much better funded pension now. All of the factors, our debt service coverage is only required to be 2.5, so we're higher. On the phone with us, they strictly attributed it to our family of credits, specifically the benchmark credits being Cook County and, the city of Chicago and the state of Illinois, strike Cook County. And those are our benchmark credits. And they said that we cannot be more than 4 levels of separation or notches between our various credits. And so they cited the Puerto Rico experience, that in that case they had more than 4 credits, and they will no longer do that. They said that by a very slim majority.
Has left the conference.
A very, very slim majority, the rating committee voted for a 2-notch downgrade, and it's, again, dependent on what is going on with the state. They expect that if there isn't a budget they could be subject to an additional downgrade. So we still have a very strong credit. Nevertheless, we can't control the state budget impasse, and it is strictly due to that.
Thank
So
you.
that's the insight they gave us.
Thank you very much.
Director Lewis.
B, you mentioned a four grade difference between, so is that for their grading measures, or I'm just trying to determine that because the state's rating is subject to more downward pressure. So if that four grade differential is what they're talking about, every time the state gets downgraded, that probably puts pressure on our rating.
This is Moody's. I mean, this is Moody's determination. And even if this, we have been told that even if the state is downgraded, we would still be within that four-notch differential. So we would still be okay even if the state gets downgraded one more time. For now.
Any other questions or comments? I asked the same question as you did, Director Hobson, yesterday at our audit meeting, and I question why, with the strength of Lake County and DuPage and McHenry, Will, et cetera, would we be considered a bad person or organization? And B mentioned Chicago and the state of Illinois having more reflection on that bond downgrade than anything else. So it's not us.
So I was
For the
telling
record.
Director Durante that we explained to our rating agencies our family is bigger, and the rating families is bigger than just the city of Chicago and the state of Illinois, and that we talk about we have family members in DuPage, we have family members in Lake. So look at us as a regional credit with the strengths of our other family members in some of our collar counties. And so we do cover all that. We have presentations where we show everybody else's ratings so that it's not just, but yes, those are our benchmark credits of the city of Chicago and state of Illinois.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, we have a motion on the floor by Director Lewis. Is there a second to the motion? By Director Higgins.
We'll
Any
need a roll call.
I'm sorry?
We will need a roll call.
Yeah. Any discussion? If not, we'll ask the secretary to call roll.
Okay. Director Anderson?
Yes.
Director Colson? Yes. Director Higgins?
Yes.
Director Lewis?
Yes.
Director Melvin?
Yes.
Director Ross? Yes. Director Durante?
Yes.
7 ayes and 1 absent.
Okay, if there's no further business to come before the public session of the Audit Committee, I entertain a motion and a second to adjourn by Director Higgins, seconded by Director Colson. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? We are adjourned.